imperative, and she's talking about beloved, is not love or the fulfillment of physical, and here I would insert individual desire. The action is driven by necessity, something that precedes love, follows love, informs love, shapes it, and for which love is subservient. So I think Morrison's works here in this passage in particular really give us an opportunity to ask a set of questions attendant to the ones that have already been posed, and that is, what is needed? What precedes love? What enables it to come into being in the academy? That is, if one thinks such is even desirable or is worth the energy to pursue. And I believe Morrison's work makes it abundantly clear that it is something worth pursuing. And to repeat, I would say those pursuits have everything to do with the kind of knowledge that we produce, because they have everything to do with the knowledge we need, all right? The knowledge that can serve us, the knowledge that does not exist simply for its own sake and simply to provide a line item on a CV, all right? But to borrow that term of hers again, something that's ultimately necessary. Of course, we can weigh, we can debate, we can discuss what is necessary. But I think that is absolutely at the heart of everything she does and everything through her works that she might enjoin us to do. Sorry for that long-winded answer.
No, I appreciate it. And I think too, if you can, Miriam, because what Deb suggested reminded me a lot of what Language Matters, that initiative, tried to do. And I know that you worked a lot with Language Matters when you were president of the society. And so a lot of that Deb was mentioning also happened in K-12 spaces, in addition to in the academy as we think about it. So you don't have to talk about Language Matters, but if you want to talk about that while you're kind of in that conversation, that'd be great as well.
Thank you, Dana, and hello to everyone and any Language Matters folks out there. I started with this notion of knowledge as an industry because it seemed to me that what Morrison was doing was critiquing the industry. Mm-hmm. And in critiquing the industry, part of that critique has to do with what knowledge is absent, what knowledge we don't have access to, what counts as knowledge, inside or outside. And if you refuse to allow it into the academy, then what does it say about the academy? Mm-hmm. And in one of the videos, Morrison is talking, the Princeton video, and then Ruth Simmons talks after her. And Ruth talks about accountability. Mm. So if you have an academy, and if you are serious about it, it has to be accountable for what it does to the people who enter its doors, to the people who are surrounding, because in virtually every community we know, bricks and mortar institutions are located in spaces, often confiscating people's spaces to exist. So I think that turning the whole notion of where knowledge comes from, what the academy's responsibility is for mining it, for making it available, for correcting errors that are made historically over time, exclusions that exist, that the responsibility, it has accountability and responsibility. And those things in my mind constitute an industry. Now, Black Studies stepped into that zone and shifted the direction in which the industry called knowledge and education went. I do think that in this context where Morrison is pushing an experience, an academic experience that has love connected to it, we frequently hear people say, I love her language. I love to read Morrison. Or even if I don't understand it, I can feel what she's talking about. So I think within that entire academic setting, we are expanding the notion of what comes out of reading through literature, reading through Morrison, reading through the experiences that we have. So being much more serious about what we do when we say the Academy.
Mm-hmm. I think, no, go ahead.
Yeah, and forcing the Academy to respond in ways that are clearly socially just, but and accountable, and not window dressing. A lot of what we are seeing with this George Floyd experience, people are doing things that look good, but don't really mean anything. So I think that that responsibility that she's really forcing on us, the Academy is yet to realize the full meaning of that responsibility. So
there are a couple of essays in the Source of Self-Regard that are in what I call the education section, if you will. So where she gave commencement addresses, or she spoke very specifically about the Academy, that make the point that both of you are making. We are going to share now one of those instances, and Catherine, if you can start pulling it up, even as I'm like kind of leading into it. This particular piece is the one that Mariama was alluding to, where she's talking at Princeton, where they're thinking about how values can be taught at the university. And then as we think about gearing up to begin a new semester, which, you know, whether you're teaching or if you are preparing to take children to school or to homeschool children, then part of what we have to think about is the ways that values are taught in the Academy, university, middle school, high school, and so on, whether those values are good or bad. And I think it's important to think about that, very especially in this season of pandemic and unrest. So this clip is from 2000, and we'll just take a look at a little snippet of it, and then I'll get your reactions to it. And as we knew would happen, this segment has gone so fast, it'll be time in a second to transition to our next one, but I wanna get your reactions to this one. You can start it for us, Catherine, thank you.
The innate feature of the university is that not only does it examine, it also produces power-laden and value-ridden discourse. Much scholarship is often even habitually entangled in or regulated by ideology. Since as humanists we know that that is the case, acknowledgement is preferable to the mask of disinterest. In any case, it becomes incumbent upon us as citizen scholars, not philosopher kings, in the university to accept the consequences of our own value-redolent roles.
So here she talks about the citizen scholar and the public role, and we'll talk about Morrison's Publics in just a second, but when we think about that distinction between the philosopher king and the citizen scholar, how might those of us who are teachers, whether it's formerly in the Academy or otherwise, embody the former rather than the latter? You know, how do we make sure that we are, or the latter rather, how do we make sure that we're citizen scholars and tease out those differences, if you will? You're muted, Mariama. You're going too.
Go on, Mariama, you're muted.
Okay, I'm good now. I want to tie citizen scholar together with value, because if you don't understand the meaning and multiple meanings of value, it is very difficult to execute a role as a citizen scholar. So value, many meaning, literary value, the contingent nature of value, the value meaning judgment, or value meaning choices that we make within and without, what we privilege and what we deny.